Okay, we were talking about downcasting. So remember at compile time, this sees this as, the computer sees this as a student. So as you're typing, because it compiles as you type, I believe, on IntelliJ, it will give you an error because it doesn't see it as a PhD student. It sees it as a student, okay? And so if I just say Sally.writes thesis, it's not gonna work for me. Now, let's pretend that I want to call writes thesis. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna downcast. And this is how we downcast, okay? So we're telling the computer, hey, I'm forcing this to be a PhD student so then I can call writes thesis on it. Now, generally speaking, I only want to do that with things that are PhD students because when I don't, I get into a whole mess. So a lot of times there will be some sort of if statement before, okay? So what this downcasting does gives Sally access to the methods that it needs, okay? But without this downcasting, only the non-private methods of the superclass can be called on an instance of the subclass. So without this downcasting, we can only call stuff that's in the student class on it. All right, so let's look at, what does this look like when we code? So I'm gonna bring back up my bank and hopefully we can finish this all within one video. And I believe it's still up. I added some new things here in my driver. The last time I was around, I was doing, thinking as I type is not working for me right now. When I did office hours the other day. So I'm gonna just comment that out. Oh, beautiful. Did it for me. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put a bunch of different checking account things or accounts into a bank, a list called bank. So I will call that, they're all gonna be bank accounts, okay? I'm gonna make an array and I'll say bank becomes new bank accounts. Maybe I'll do 3 different types of accounts, 1 of each, okay? So then let's just say I want to fill them separately. So let's just say bank at 0 becomes new bank accounts. And I believe I needed some sort of, I'll just use what I had up there. A123 and $10. Okay, bank at 1 is going to become a new, oh, where? Let's hit the return button on accident. A new savings account. Gonna use, I don't know why I'm doing all this. I might as well just copy and paste. Oh, is it not copying for me? Let's see. Copy and paste. Nice. And then my bank at 2 is gonna become this guy here. And you know what? Instead of rewriting everything, whoops, I want this piece. Instead of rewriting everything, I am going to cut and paste and, nah, I'm not gonna do that. Because I just realized like that'll make things more complicated. So let's say I say bank at 0 dot withdraw. Now I'll deposit. Okay, maybe I want to deposit 10 bucks. Okay, and then I'll say system.out.print bank at 0. Okay. Maybe I'll just print them all at the end. I'm just showing how they work. So let's say I say bank at 1. Okay, this is a savings account, right? So let's use, I don't think we overrode any methods, but we did write a new method, if I recall, and I remember it being annual interest rate. Annual interest rate. Okay. You see this red? I have an error. No, you cannot do this. No. Because there's no annual interest rate method in bank account. So remember, I declared these all as bank accounts. Here's where my error is, and here's where my downcasting has to come in. Now, if I want to do this, the way I have to do it is force this thing to be a savings account. Now, remember I said that we usually do this in an if statement. So I'm going to follow my own advice and do it in the if statement. I can't quite remember where it is, but that's good because it'll give us, I'm sure it's in, okay, 95% sure. It's in the object API. Remember, object is the very, 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 very top of the hierarchy. And I believe that everyone has this. So my method is going to be get class, okay? So get class. So it's going to return the class. I wonder, I don't know that I've ever used this before. I wonder, because in a different thing there was, in a different thing I was using, there was a different method. So I don't know if you can use equals equals with classes or not, but we're about to find out. Or if I have to use dot equals. So I'm going to say if bank at 0. Oh, I want bank at 1. At 1 dot get class. Let's see. Uh-oh, why doesn't it want me to do that? Maybe because I don't have an equals equals here. Equals equals savings account. Let's see how this works. Okay. Looks like we're all good. All right, so like I said, this is kind of my first way through this. There's got to be a way to compare these. I am going to try and actually look at this. Okay, so it is going to, the class object that represents the runtime class of this object, which is great. That's what I want. So how do I say dot equals? Doesn't look like equals equals is going to work. So let's see if I should use dot equals. And that doesn't look like it's going to work either. So how do I deal with this? Look back here. I'm going to do a slight bit of research and find out. Okay. Yeah, dot equals only compares the objects. So I'm going to pause this. I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to get back to you. Okay, so I saw a couple of different things, both of which make sense. Get class, I totally didn't even pay attention. Get class returns it. There's this thing called get class, get name, which returns the name as a string. So it'd be like this, get class dot get name. So I'm getting the name of the class, which kind of seems a little excessive to me, but here we go. Dot equals savings account. Let's see if that helps. Oh, I should have done this. There we go. Ah, but it doesn't like this either. It says I have unnecessary parentheses here. This is a Boolean. Interesting. All right. Let's see. It says I have unnecessary parentheses. Oh, I do have unnecessary parentheses here. Hold on. There we go. So, if I'm going to say bank1.getClass dot get name, so it gives me the name of the class, dot equals savings account. I'm going to run this thing, which means if this thing is a savings account at runtime, run it. Now here's the other thing, which I did use and I totally forgot to tell you guys about because it's been a little bit since I've used it, but there's this cool thing that returns a Boolean. So up to this point, we've used equals, equals, not equals, etc. Okay. And it is called instance of. Okay. It is, let's see. It is, we don't have it in our class, so we can't use it. So let's go back to what we did. Lots of times we have a thing called instance of in our class, which will return what it's an instance of. But so let's go with our original, which was get class dot get name. Okay, dot get equals. And so here we are. We're doing a double check to make sure it's a savings account. And then we're going to use annual interest rate, which you can do. Okay, and then let's do something similar. So if bank at 2 dot get class dot get name dot equals checking account. So this is, remember, an extra protection so we don't get ourselves into a mess. And then if it doesn't equal a checking account, it won't run it, okay? If it equals a checking account, then we're going to, do we even need this? Is there anything different in here? Oh, there was an overdraft. But listen, look, there wasn't even anything in here, so we don't really need anything. We don't need that. That only, the downcasting we only need for savings account because it's the only one with an extra method. So we're going to take this out and we're going to say bank at 2 dot withdraw, and maybe we'll try and use polymorphism. So they have an overdraft. We had $200, so I think I put in $240 before. All right, we're going to run this. I'm going to see if this works. Hopefully, we're going to cross our fingers. But we didn't print anything. Oh, but it did say you overdrew your account by 40, so we can see that the polymorphism is working, which is awesome. But now I'm going to use a for each loop. Whoops. For each bank account, because they're all bank accounts now. So I'm going to call them all by the superclass. Bank account in bank. Okay. What I want to do, I want a system.out.print bank. No, account. I want to print out each one. Okay, so it's going to tell me I overdrew, and then it should show me everything. I cross my fingers, everything is good. Oh, I have a new print line, so I can actually read it. All right, so this is perfect. So I overdrew my account by 40, which is great because that means polymorphism is working on this bank withdraw with our checking account. Okay, on bank at 0, I deposited $10. I had $10, so I have $20, which is correct on the balance. Here, my bank account at 1 was a savings account. I wanted to call the new method in that hierarchy annual interest rate. Remember, this has annual interest rate, but bank account, the superclass, did not. So I had to downcast, which I did, and I also, which I did here, this is the downcasting, and I also had an if statement to help me to make sure that I was doing it correctly, because I don't want to downcast something that's not assigned to that specific thing. Otherwise, you're going to mess with things. And then I withdrew here. It withdrew correctly using my overdraft. Okay, and then it is a balance of 0. So all of this worked out perfectly, and shows you how my polymorphism works perfectly. Here, there is something called instance of. I encourage you to do a little more research on it. I looked at it quickly using a Google search here, and I've used it before, but your class has to have an instance of